If you ever send a deal my way and want me to review it, there's 3 letters I'm going to ask for. ROI, return on investment. And if you don't know what that is, I don't care where it's located. I don't care how under market value it is. I don't care why you think it's a good or bad deal, or what you want to do with it, or how excited you are about it, or how it's going to be a great embellishment to your financial portfolio, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Because every investment, whether it's buying or selling a business, starting a business, right? Whether it's owning real estate, whether it's doing anything with money in life, if you don't always know up front the ROI, I'm just going to ask, why are you doing this?
Kris, over the past 1 week, I've had 2 conversations about homey and people questioning whether or not the world really needs realtors. And both conversations have taken me aback because I use some members of our team as my realtor. And man, do they go to bat for me.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, what is your realtor not doing? They're like, nothing. He writes up a contract and says, yeah, this is what you do. And I'm like, freak, my realtor, he negotiated, like we just sold our house. He negotiated the client up like another $20,000.
Yep.
And I'm like, that is what I'm freaking paying 6% for. So I wanted to ask you, negotiations, do they matter?
Right now, any disruptive technology always starts out clunky. But if you give it time, if it is meant to disrupt, the market will find a way. And so it's interesting, like look at today's market. And for the next 3 to 4 years, you're gonna have these realtors trying to beg everyone to give them their listing. Because here's what they know. If I can just throw that out there on the MLS, someone's gonna bite on it and I'm gonna look like the hero. I don't have to do a whole lot. Sure, yeah.
A numbers game.
Negotiations and things like that are important, but dude, at this point, you're just trying to win by scoring listings. And if you can score a ton of listings, you're going to win. And how do you do that? Well, you say things like, oh yeah, I'm going to do open houses every Saturday. I'm going to go to my client database of repeat buyers and I have my social media influence and blah, blah, blah. I'm special. Give me your listing.
Yeah.
But in today's market, does that really matter? Does that really give you much of a competitive edge? No. Their ability to negotiate absolutely does. So these services are going to start cropping up, replacing realtors. Do realtors right now have will there be a time when we hardly need them? Yeah, I actually believe that's true. It's like truck drivers. When these semis, when Teslas,
I would be getting out of that
themselves,
industry.
Then we're going to take the number 1 job in America and it will poof.
Overnight.
It'll be gone overnight.
And because why?
Yeah.
Because a self-driving car can drive all night, can drive all day, can drive 24/7.
However, realtors in niches, that's going to be harder. That's going to take time for disruption to figure out. Right now, we're just talking about buying and selling boring, typical mainstream homes.
So let me ask you this, Kris. What percentage of realtors out there actually know how to negotiate?
In
your opinion?
Since the average realtor does an average of 2 deals in their entire life, I'd say they probably get enough experience to do no more than suck at it. As in like, I suck. That's it. I don't even know what I'm doing.
Okay, follow-up question. In your working career, how many people that you have interacted with in the real estate industry and in business know how to negotiate?
You know, real negotiation skills come only with volume. So whenever I'm working with someone or I'm adding someone to my team, guess what I really want to know? I don't necessarily start off with how good can you negotiate. I want to know, what is your level of experience? Like, is this the 10th deal that you're closing, or is this the 1,000th deal that you're closing? Because anyone that is in the game long enough to get some volume underneath them, they're going to play the game better. They're going to be more intelligent. Like, for example, I'm selling a house right now in Florida, right?
Okay.
I'm buying a lot of homes, but I've had this home for, I think, 7 years. I've made over $100,000 on it. It's time to sell it. Why? Because I want to put it in 2 other homes in Florida, and I want to double my ROI. I want to take my 25%, 30% historic ROI, and I want to double it by doubling down on the money. By the way, anytime you can take money out of an investment and double down on twice as much investment with the same ROI, the ROI doubles. And most people don't understand that the reason why rich people get rich is because they don't play with boring single-digit ROIs. If I'm earning 25% on the low side of my real estate investing, like my bare minimum ROI, in 5 years, I'm going to sell that house and turn it into 2. That same dollar is now earning 25% in one and 25% in the other. That's a total of a 50% ROI. And 5 years later, I'm going to double it again to 100%, and then 200, and then 400. And then when you get a little bit more experience under your belt, where you've done a handful of deals, I can show you how to do an infinite ROI, which means out the gate, you learn how to leverage OPM, put no money in, and then you get to freaking kill it on the backside. By the way, where were we going?
I want to know with all your experience, how important negotiation is in the game of real estate, in the game of life, and in the game of business.
Negotiation is not real estate. Negotiation is everything. Dude, negotiation is parenting. Negotiation is having a spouse. Negotiation is
You're saying
business.
you had to talk Colin into it?
Oh, dude, like when are people not talking each other into stuff? Here's, I think, one of the most naive ideas that most people have around sales. They think that sales is cringy. It's bad. You have to have a little bit of a black heart or a silver, forked tongue. Because if you're selling someone, it's because you have an agenda and because you want something. But I got a news flash for everyone. Every person on this planet wants something.
Yeah.
Like even if you're just in an hourly salary job, which means that if you work twice as hard, you don't earn more money, which I think is like hell on earth. But let's just say you're even in that situation, you're still negotiating for your rights to use the fountain drink. You're negotiating how often you can use the pee-pee, the toilet. You're negotiating when you get time off. You're negotiating every time you're trying to convince someone to read a book because you're recommending one. We're always selling. Like selling is always taking place. And the reason why sales as an idea is really cringy. I know you use the word negotiation, but I have to use the word sales.
And I wanted to follow up on that. Why is that? You see them as one and the same.
They are one and the same.
Most people, I think, would disagree.
Yeah, of course they would. Selling is trying to find a way to get what you want. That's what it is.
And negotiating is.
And there's different kinds of people. Like there's the person that says, I want to get what I want and I don't care what you want. You're an object to me, so I'm going to objectify you. People that do sales that way, we tend not to like them because we don't like how we feel around them. We have the BS meter going off left and right, or the creepo meter, or we're feeling like this person has commission breath. And I don't really feel like they value me as a human being. They don't actually care about my best interests. This person is clearly trying to make a sale. That's what they want out of this so that they can get paid money. Mm-hmm. No one likes to be sold. Everybody loves to buy.
Yes, we do.
And so then you have your other kind of salesperson. You've got the one that has no negotiating skills because they're too busy trying to sell you on perceiving them as a nice person. That person also typically finishes last. Why? Because they don't know how to be nice and get the result. For them, it's one or the other. And the moment it comes to push or what they perceive as pressure, they're out of the game. So those people are pushovers. And they'll never succeed well at sales. And their negotiation skills are horrible. They do not wear the pants in their family.
So you're saying that when we put on a facade and try and be a likable person so that people like us, that this is a form of sales?
It's not a form of sales. I think it's a form of self-deception. What I'm saying is that there's one way to sell authentically, and there's 1,000 ways to sell inauthentically. And the reason why people struggle even with the conversation of the negotiation, I know we're going to bring it back to real estate and business, but I just got to tell you, like the first 10 years I was in business transacting tens of millions of dollars, I walked from that business and sold it for $1 to my business partner. One, I sucked at negotiating, right? Like that's why that happened. But two, that was a summary of my lack of skills that I had built up in that arena. Most people don't have very good negotiation tactics. And it's because most people struggle, Carson, with how to actually be genuine and authentic. Mm-hmm. Like that was the start of my whole journey. I was such a phony. Like before I made my foray into the world of personal development, I mean, teach this stuff from stage now. People pay me a lot of money to actually do my breakthrough work and my work of transformation. The only reason why I'm masterful at it, it's because before I put in my tens of thousands of hours to learn it, I had to realize that I was a fake. I was the one wearing a mask. I was the one that wanted to figure out how to gently apply pressure and get you to buy something while still perceiving me as the nice guy or your friend or someone that you liked. And I was playing a game without knowing that I was playing it. That's how most people are in the sales arena, is that to become good and authentic at selling is to know yourself. It's that old, I think it was that Socrates, know thyself, the purpose of life. And learning the game of selling really is learning how to strip away agendas and even intentions at time and to come clear with who you really are.
So let's bring this back to real estate.
Yeah, I was going to say, how are you going to flip that into real estate? I'll show you how to flip that into
real
real estate.
I want to know because it does apply. Because real estate, a lot of people when they first get started in real estate, they mistake the industry for an industry of houses and structures, but really it's an industry of people.
Okay, well, let me drop a little gold nugget that will benefit anyone who is in the process of buying and selling a house or any other asset in their life. Take the real estate market. We have record low supply. We have record high demand. When I say record, I mean historically never tracked anything to that level. And then you have 50-year low rates. It is a storm for people to get rich. However, it's created massive levels of competition. When someone puts an offer up, puts a house up for sale, guess what happens? They get like 1 million offers. They're getting some of these houses like, well, it was up for 4 hours and I got 3 dozen offers. And so how do you win in a negotiation game like that? Well, I'm going to share with you just rule number 1, like behind the scenes, the way I play. And that negotiation says, what does authenticity that I'm really talking about mean? Authenticity, turns out, ends up enabling speed. How fast you can actually go. For example, Carson, let's say you have a house and you've listed it for sale, and I get pre-market information that it's available. And I'm aware that the moment it hits the market, within the first 24 hours, there's going to be a lot of offers on it. So let's say that you're planning on listing it tomorrow. You tell me, how much time do I have to make a deal with you?
12 hours?
Yeah, you say 12 hours, but let me share with you how people make deals in real estate. This is what a typical realtor do. Well, let's meet, let's look at the numbers. We're going to write up an offer, and we'll tell them they got 48 hours to respond. And then typically, by the way, people want a deal. So by the way, I haven't given you a clean offer. I'm giving you an offer that requires negotiation. Well, that negotiation is going to take up another 48 hours because you're going to respond. You're going to send me an offer back. I'm going to look at it. And while we are going back and forth for 7 days, the deal's been snatched up on day 1 by a good, clean offer. So here's the way that I recommend people play the game. What does it mean to be genuine and authentic? Know what you want, learn what they want. If you know what you want and you can help them get what they want, what you're really doing is figuring out how to slice the cake in a manner that you would be willing to take either slice. My first business partner actually taught me that in negotiating, a real win-win is when both parties win, and you only know that if you're willing to take their deal, just like you'd be willing to take your own.
Kris, that surprises me because you are a good salesman. You built a huge sales team before, when you were 20, what were you, 22, 23, 24? Yep. You were a very good salesman. And that surprises me to hear you say that a good negotiation is where you can split the cake and be happy with either half.
It doesn't make sense to most people because most people are saying, how do I rape and pillage? How do I take advantage? How do I win when the other, by the way, if I win more and you lose more, then I win. And
right, because most people see it that they don't necessarily care about winning as long as the other side lost.
Okay, well, see, why are we even having a conversation about authentic selling or authentic negotiations? By the way, your negotiations can't be authentic if you don't know how to be true to who you really are. So for me, I ask myself, who do I want to be when the deal's done? Who am I becoming? How do I want to feel when we close the deal? If you're in a situation where you could fleece somebody, you could take advantage of them, you could rape, pillage, and steal and win, and you know they're going to lose, but they're too dumb or naive to know it. If you can allow yourself to go forward with that deal, your soul will blacken. And then you're going to look for more deals like that because you rewarded and got a positive financial reward for doing something bad. And then you have to ask yourself, what's the destiny of that person? And I'm telling you right now, that's not a person I want to hang out with. That's not a person I want to spend time with. That's not a person I'm going to respect. And yet those people can make ludicrous amounts of money in life learning how to sell that way. Take it to an extreme, and we have a special word for that. It's called a con artist.
Shyster.
So yeah, shyster is pre-con artist, but what I'm looking for is a true win-win because guess what I have? I have my reputation to think about, which is this outward idea of how the world perceives me, but then I have my own integrity to consider, which is how do I perceive me? And ultimately, a win-win has to include I like how I perceive me, and then preferably I'd like how the world perceives me. If those two things aren't part of the negotiation, then it just means I have a lesson to learn, and I'm probably going to hurt a lot of people, myself, along the way before I learn that lesson.
This is surprising to me, Kris. I expected to go into this conversation, just so everybody knows, we don't pre-prepare any script. I usually just jot down some
Where are my
questions.
notes? Where are my notes?
I jot down some questions that maybe Kris can be prepared for. And today I was like, hey, I want to talk about negotiations.
Let me drop
it
into real
comes up
estate.
a lot.
Let me go back to real estate real quick because I want to finish this idea because they're wondering, like, what should I be doing?
Right. And I just want to wrap up my last thought. I was expecting to come in and talk tactics and be like, oh, you do this.
We can get to tactics.
Okay.
We'll
okay. I'm just really surprised that we're like talking integrity.
Before you can ever get tactical, everyone always wants the tactics. How do you do it? Steps 1, 2, 3. Before you get to that, I always ask why. Like, what's the why behind it? And I always have to ask on things that are as important as this, who are you becoming in the process? If you take those tactics, like there's some salespeople out there that if you accept their tactics and you run with it, I don't think you're going to like how you feel in a few years. And guess what? It's because you sold off part of your conscience. So you have to have standards. One of my standards is I have to love, not like, I have to love who I'm becoming as I grow business. Because, dude, business can be done so dirty and so underhanded. And the question is, I'm in a position of power. I have to figure out how to be fair for someone that's naive. Think about how much superior experience I have with some people I'm doing business with. I'm in a position where I could absolutely take advantage of people.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you something, that will eventually catch up. That reputation catches up. And whatever you're doing for a quick buck will not be sustainable in the long run. The real secret is to figure out how to sell something that can sustainably create wealth or value or transactional history that can keep going, because people like more and more who you are, the more business you do. And if that's not a part of the strategy, dude, you're screwed. You just don't know it yet.
Okay, take us one level deeper.
Okay,
Let's talk real estate.
Let's get tactic. We talk about having this good heart. So, when I do a deal, I do all my research. I found out first what I need for the deal to work, and then I understand that I need speed on my side. I don't usually get to know what the other person wants because my realtor will work through their realtor. And as an investor, if any of you are wondering, Kris, does that mean that you actually use realtors on your transactions even though you don't need to because of how much you've learned? Friend, always have representation. And when you're buying something, someone else is paying for it. So yes, always have a representation, but even if you had to pay for it, it is the smarter move. I'll tell you right now that rather than meeting with the buyer and seller and trying to negotiate a deal, when you're doing it through third-party representation, you actually need to make sure that you have not honestly disclosed to your realtor what you want. Because your realtor is meeting with their realtor and they're both trying to arrive at a win-win that me and their client can live with. And I'm also not okay with that. I actually feel like realtors that are supposed to represent third party have a huge commission on the line. So they're also representing their own butt. They're also representing their own needs. And here's the question, are they representing more of my needs or their needs? And if I tell them, yeah, well, I'd like to get this house for 240, but I'd go up to 260. And now I present my offer at 240. And then my realtor's talking to their realtor and their realtor's like, oh geez, that's too low of an offer. We can't take it. And my realtor's like, well, listen, I'm pretty positive that you could go up. You could go up higher. I can't really disclose how much, but 20%, $20,000. Like you could go up a little higher. We could probably find a win-win. Does that happen? And listen carefully. I love realtors. I would never do deals without them. But you have to understand that they are not representing 100% what's best for you. They're always representing you and themselves because they're not true fiduciaries. Their pay comes down to what they do and how they talk and how they act. And that's something currently that we get to live with. It's kind of part of the way it is, which means that I actually have to conceal my intentions, not just from the person I'm trying to buy from, not just their realtor. I'm concealing my intentions from my realtor. For example,
interesting.
There's a house I'm selling right now, made over $100,000 on it. I'm listing it for a quick sale. Day one, I told the realtor, he said, well, I think we should list it for 260. I said, go 10 grand above that. So we listed it at 270. Day one, it got under contract. Multiple offers. I accepted one, and a few days later, it fell out. I went back to the realtor and I said, you know what? I've rethought my position on this and I need to list it for 280. And the realtor's like, well, no, that's 10,000 higher. Now, why doesn't the realtor want me to go for a higher price?
Because they're most interested in closing a deal.
How quickly, it's $200 difference on my commission. Let's just get this deal done as fast as possible.
But it's $10,000 on you.
But $10,000 to me, it's $200 to them or $100 to them or whatever. It's $10,000 to me. I've been in this investment for a number of years, and that represents a 10% higher yield. That's called being smart, and that's called doing really good business. So you have to understand enough of the game to understand that you have to have a negotiation tactic, and some of that needs to be hidden from your realtor.
Interesting.
Yeah. So by the way, here's the way I play. I know what I want, and I always tell realtors to do this. Call them up, and this is the hack. Make a verbal offer. And the realtor says, no. We need to sit down. We need to do paperwork. I need to put this together. I said, excuse me?
An official offer.
I want you to listen really carefully. I'm not making an official offer. I understand that that's what you're trained to do, but I'm not making an official offer. One, you're going to get with me and require me to spend 5 minutes signing paperwork. And I value my time, and I don't want to give you that 5 minutes. Give them a verbal offer and tell them what and listen to these words, highest and best. Let me give you an example. There's a house for sale for $250,000. and you want to get it for $235,000, and that's the highest you can go to still protect your ROI, then here's what I'd recommend. First of all, tell your realtor. First of all, you might be willing to go to 240 or 242. Don't tell your realtor that. Tell your realtor, my highest and best, here's my pre-qualification letter with my lender. I'm good for 280, but I've looked at my ROI, 235 is my max. I want you to call them up. I want you to do a verbal. I want you to get the reaction, but I want you to know if they come back and they want a penny higher, I'm out. Why am I saying that? Because my realtor, if he knows what I want versus what I'm offering, they're going to play with the whole scale of numbers, and I don't want them to. I want them to play with only one number. So the realtor goes and makes the offer and says, I'm sorry, I got a client. He's ready to go. I understand you're listening to this tomorrow, but it's a clean all cash offer at 235, closed within 7 days as is condition. Will you accept that? Why did I go verbal? Because paperwork creates the 24 to 72 hour process that I don't have time for. So step one, go verbal. Step two, communicate your highest and best. Now, if the person comes back, and let's just say the realtor came back and said, hey, this person is upside down in this house. They need $242,000 to clear every last penny. The money's on their credit card, ... That's where they're at. Well, guess what I have now? After a 5-minute conversation, I now know something more akin to the truth. Sure, I can look up county records. Sure, I can look up what someone owes. But at this point, here's what they at least communicated to me. Maybe not the truth, but they're telling me, listen, at the end of the day, by the time I list this thing tomorrow, I need to be $242,000 because of reasons X, Y, and Z. And I have a choice. If I don't believe them because I've done some other research, I can still say, well, now I'm going to present an official offer and it's going to be $239. Or if I can personally live with $242, I'll now tell my realtor, I've crunched my numbers. I can live with that. We're going to write up the offer $242, but I need it accepted by 5 p.m. tonight. Here comes the realtor again. No, that's not standard. That's not typical. We need to give this, 24 to 48 hours at least. I'm like, I'm not going to lose the deal, and I'm certainly not going to lose it. I want you to get on the phone and just say, if I submit an offer right now in the next 20 minutes, is it possible to have this signed by the seller by 5 p.m.? And if they say yes, I'm going to drop that paperwork. I already know what's going to happen. There's going to be no funky conditions. Everything was pre-negotiated. And I did that deal in hours, not days. So speed was part of why this happened. Number two, I have to be honest and authentic. And at the same time, look at how I'm balancing deception with the person that I can't fully trust to represent me unless we truly have history. Like my realtor team, dude, we buy houses like almost every single day. I don't play that game with them. We're just open with each other because they are compensated in a way that it doesn't create that conflict of interest.
Yeah, and you've probably given them the box already that they know where they can stay within to keep it within your realm.
So by the way, people will tell you the person to mention price first loses. In some negotiations, in fact, in most, that's true. When I play the real estate game, if I've crunched my numbers and if I know minimally what I need, and I know what that is, I'm going to go out and I'm going to make, not a lowball offer, I'm going to make a genuine offer. I'm going to make an offer, and we might have to budge a little here and there, but I'm going to skip the back and forth. Here's the game I hate playing. Well, they've got it listed for $300. I'm going to offer $250. Then they're going to come back at $290, and then I'm going to go back at $260, and then you've lost the deal. It's gone. For the next 3 years, you're not going to win any of those deals, so just skip that game.
So, Kris, how often does this cause you to have to walk from a deal if you're willing to start with your highest and best? And you view that as a good thing.
Oh, realtors. So investors in the beginning, they think that doing a deal is winning. That is false. Doing a good deal is winning. You know how many people I meet, they're like, I bought a house. I'm an investor. And I look at the numbers and I'm like, looks to me like without strategy, you just bought a property at market so that you could say, I have investment property. I'm like, to me, you're kind of stupid. Maybe not the worth of your soul or who you are as a person, but certainly the approach that you took here is asinine. Like, don't ever do that again. If you can, dump the deal or get rid of it. And I've had to tell people that. They're like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy this house. I'm like, why? By the way, I want to drop another thing right now. If you're listening to this and you have a game of wanting to be really good at the game of real estate, if you ever send a deal my way and want me to review it, there's 3 letters I'm going to ask for. ROI, return on investment. And if you don't know what that is, I don't care where it's located. I don't care how under market value it is. I don't care why you think it's a good or bad deal or what you want to do with it or how excited you are about it or how it's going to be a great embellishment to your financial portfolio, blah, blah, blah. I don't care. Because every investment, whether it's buying or selling a business, starting a business, right? Whether it's owning real estate, whether it's doing anything with money in life, if you don't always know up front the ROI. I'm just going to ask, why are you doing this? If you don't know that answer, you shouldn't be doing it. You're not ready yet. It's not hard to figure out, by the way. I mean, all you're doing is taking your projected profits over the period of the time that you're going to own it, and you're going to divide it by the capital that you're putting in, and it will give you a number. If I plan on making $100,000 and it requires $20,000 and it's going to be for 5 years, then I say, what's $100,000 divided by 20 grand? And I'm going to say, oh, that's a 500% ROI. I put 20 grand in, I'm going to make my money 5 times back. That's 500% over 5 years. That's 100% a year. I like this deal because it's 100% ROI, and I've mitigated risks, and I'm aware of this or that. And I'm always going, Carson, to negotiate deals where there are some things in life where I want a single digit ROI, but usually I want a double or a triple or a quadruple. And I got news for you. You need to have ROIs of all 4 of those, or by the time retirement gets around, you're not going to be having all the money that you want. You have to figure out how to get in that game. So I'm always going to say, what's your ROI?
Okay, so your 2 tactics, you leverage speed.
Speed.
You make the negotiation happen quick.
Yep.
And number 2, you lead with your highest and best. You're essentially taking a lot of the gimmicks out of negotiation.
Dude, let's skip the whole, you want this and then I'll want this and then you say this and I say that. Listen, this is where I'm at. Take it or leave it. And if I have to leave it, I'm okay walking. Because remember, I'm looking at 10,000 deals a week. I don't have time to play the negotiation game anyway. I know exactly what I want. I know what my math supports. And I feel like the most honest and authentic approach to people is just say, here's where I'm at. Does that work for you? If not, I respect it. If it does, let's do a deal.
Is lending a negotiation?
No, lending is a little different. When you get into the game, when it comes down to lending, you need to be aware of what rate you're locking in. And you should always know how your loan officer is getting paid from that company. And if there's a way for them to jack up the rate so that you get to live with a higher rate so they can make more money on the front end, do I want to know that? Absolutely. I want to know everything. So you need to understand that.
Okay, let's pivot a little and let's talk about business now. I feel like negotiation is a hallmark of business. Do you agree?
You must learn how to authentically sell, represent yourself, and negotiate if you want to have any measure of success in business. 100%.
Every transaction's a negotiation.
Everything, dude, everything, every employee, how you compensate them, everything is a negotiation. Look at your role. You're my CEO, and you're constantly making deposits into your team. Yep. Guys, we're going to Disneyland. We're rewarding you. Here's a bonus check. We're going to do this thing. Let's go out to lunch. And you do that as a part of a negotiation tactic because what do you have to do from time to time, Carson?
I have hard asks.
You have hard asks. Like what?
Staying late, working late on a webinar, showing up on a Saturday. Just recently we had our whole media team spend a weekend building like 20 videos and 3 new websites because we had a Monday deadline.
Yeah. And part of that is this work hard, play hard culture. Everyone that works here is a millennial, which means they all want a certain level of freedom. They all want a certain amount of play. They all want a certain amount of culture. They all want a certain amount of how does this benefit me, right? And you need a combination there, but part of your negotiation tactic, dude, you figured this out more brilliant than me. I empowered you to spend time empowering all these individuals because if you can build a powerful culture that people buy into and feel good. Like for example, we had our meeting last Thursday and we said, hey guys, we will never do a 401k because we love you. We will never do a company match because we love you. However, you can take my $100,000 real estate program and once you've been here for 6 months, you can have it for free. What are we doing? Dude, we're negotiating and we're trying to err on the side of give back bigger than most would. I believe that it's important to figure out how to always exchange 5 to 10 times more value than people are actually paying for. And that's just a rule. That's part of that. Part of that is a negotiation. Have you ever done a really fair deal that unravels because it was just too fair? I try to err on the side of giving too much. I want to feel good about my contribution. And that's part of because I want to like who I become in the process of this whole thing. Like for example, let's say I become a billionaire. I'm not there yet. Let's say I become a billionaire. When I'm a billionaire, who will I be? Will I like who I am? I'm not going to drop names, but there's some really financial successful people out there. There's a couple of prominent ones in particular that I have no respect for. I don't like who they became in the process of making money Because making money doesn't just go to the dirty, rotten, stinking rich. It also goes to the kind, good-hearted individuals that actually have great intentions and do a lot of good. A lot of people will complain about, especially the pride of the poor will rise up and talk so much about rich people being dirty, nasty, rotten, stinking. I'm like, dude, for every nasty rich person I met where I'm like, I don't really like how I feel around you. I don't like your morals, or just, I don't really like your value system. I can think of usually multiple people that literally are about doing tremendous good in this world. I think rich people are often misunderstood because of how they value their time and how it means they need to spend their time. And so poor people will judge that, say, that's such a waste. I would do that for free, or I wouldn't charge to pay someone to do that. I would just go and use my own time to do that. I'm like, man, I don't even do my own laundry anymore. Go ahead and sue me. I don't do my own laundry anymore. I have hacked so much time out of my life. Half the time I don't even drive myself anymore. I'm driven. And that costs money. But I don't do that because I like spending $100 an hour for a town car to come and drive me around. It's because I have found something far more valuable to do, or it will keep non-texting Kris Krohn off the road, which is safer for everyone.
Safer for everyone.
Including, me and my posterity.
Okay, so what do you do, Kris, when you're going to a negotiation and you know that the other person that you will be negotiating with, that you don't see eye to eye to them yet? That they want something that you already know you can't give them.
Yeah. So let's talk about the big deals.
Yeah.
Let's talk about really big deals. When you want to negotiate something that is meaningful, that can double or add 10% to your company or quadruple or give you a super exciting future, the biggest reason why those deals go down are when two people can't see their future in each other, which means I back up, and if it's important, I'm going to start with the end in mind, which is I want to like who I become in this process. And I believe in karma. And if this negotiation doesn't work out, another one will. I have to have the standard of liking who I am in the process. So for me, here's one of my standards. I don't do business with douchebags. I don't.
Everyone should write that one down.
No, I was acquiring a business. This was a multiple 8-figure acquisition from an individual. I'm not going to mention their name. And very quickly I found out I did not like this person. I did not respect this person. And I thought that they were a little underhanded, greedy, and cheaty. But I said, you know what? Listen, I'm going to buy their business, and then I'm going to wash my hands clean, and I'll run their business better than them. I'll take way better care of the clients. This will help advance my goals. This is going to be a good thing. This individual and I got going in business, and then they literally stole hundreds of thousands of dollars, didn't pay it back, and then had the audacity to sue me so they could keep it as we backed out of the purchase. And I learned something. No good deed goes unpunished. And if you insist on doing business with people that you don't like, respect, or share their morals or characters or values, I had to create a rule for myself. This is a personal rule. If I want to like who I am in the process of doing business, then it means that I have to like who I'm doing business with. In other words, I want to feel comfortable with the people. So I have standards. And I'm not trying to be self-righteous here, but I'm saying I believe that you should do business with people that you're comfortable with and that you like. And if you have an issue with them, I would rather forego the money and not do business with them, because my experience is the thing that you don't like is usually this hidden beeper detector going off, warning signal saying something's wrong and it's going to catch up to you. And you know what? It usually does, and it happens pretty quick. I can think of another scenario. You lived through this with me a few years ago when we officed somewhere else, and during that 6-month period of time, I'm like, wow, there's so much I'm seeing here in this human being that I don't respect or like, and I don't like how other people are being treated. 6 months later, I was treated like those people. And guess what? I lost out on a really significant opportunity because I compromised my standards for money, fame, success, growth, trying to get where I wanted to go. So I have a new rule. And that rule is I want to do business with people I like. So when I start that quote unquote negotiation, it actually starts with genuinely, let's get to know each other. Like, who are you really? And tell me about your life and tell me about your family life. I'm looking for clues. I'm looking for clues of not just what you tell me, but I'm looking for verification of whether you are or not the person that I think you are. And for me, the most important part of a deal is not the numbers. It's not the business. It's not how much risk there is or how much money can be made. It's, do I like this human being? Because hard things like business typically tends to be, gets hairy. And when it gets hairy, you might find yourself in a trench with that person you struck a deal with. And if you don't like them now, just imagine what it's going to be like when things are going sideways. business things go sideways, you see people's true colors. So character first and foremost. If you want to like who you are, then like who you do business with.
Wow. So you like...
Dude, some people, Carson, would call that extremely naive, but one of my mentors that's done over $1 billion taught me this. And you know what? Whether I'm sure we could find other people in the world that might argue and say, dude, that's naive, or that's stupid, or that's self-righteous, or that's, that you're passing up good opportunity and good money because you don't like this person's personal character. I'm like, listen, if I'm doing a deal that means we're going to be doing a lot of interacting with each other in time, you better bet that just for my own sanity, health, and happiness' sake, that I'm going to be vetting the person's character.
Well, Kris, you're showing an interesting perspective. First off, it sounds like to you every negotiation is just a piece of a greater whole, which is, I don't know, your legacy. You called it your integrity and your, the way the world perceives you. But you approach it with that in mind, knowing that if one deal goes well, then their chances are you're going to be making additional deals with this individual.
So I got 2 comments on that. Here's the first one. At 3:42 this afternoon, I'm going to get hit by a bus and die. What was my last deal on this planet? And what did it say about me? What was I up to? And how did I approach it? And was I conniving and sneaky? Was I playing nasty little negotiation games? Mm-hmm. Was I honoring the soul of who I am? Was I honoring the other person? Did I value the person that I was negotiating with is having the same, maybe different, but goals and dreams like I do, or maybe fears like I do? I mean, we're all people at the end of the day, and we all have different abilities and limitations. And when you've been blessed with abilities, or you've developed great abilities, that whole Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility, that's a real thing. And I think that the more expertise that you pick up in anything, there's a responsibility in how you caretake the people that you do business with that will never achieve anywhere near your level of understanding. That's the first thought is, at 3:42 this afternoon, I'm getting hit by a bus. What do my last acts on this planet say about me? But the second thing is how you gain money. Like I used to be one heck of a risky dude. Like as in, I wasn't diversifying. There's a big money opportunity here, and I would put too much of my portfolio in it. Like, here's 80% of my savings, because if this thing wins, I'll make millions of dollars. If I were to do a deal where I'm putting up a lot of my money, the majority, by the way, everyone listen, if you're putting up the majority of your money on a single thing and you're banking on it, you're betting on it.
Betting the farm.
You're betting the farm. And if it goes right, I'm really scared for you, because you'll have reinforced that is how you win, and it is a guarantee that you're going to lose. It is a guarantee. So anyone that's had massive wins with that philosophy, they will lose in time in a really nasty way.
All of Las Vegas functions on this principle of the chance of winning one time, and they end up taking it all.
Dude, I was practicing this morning. I had my private one-on-one coach doing some day trading with me. And I thought I was in the paper trading, but I was actually trading with real money. And I negotiated. I had done this huge financial play thinking that it was just all fake money. And I turned out the moment I bought it that I had bought a significant pile of something I didn't want to own, because this is just like mock trading on a new type of strategy. And I sold it, and I actually made money. And my coach was laughing because I was all blind and I was making money. And then it happened a second time, and I made money again. And I'm like, and someone might say, dude, I should celebrate how lucky I am. I never celebrate luck.
Because it's dangerous.
It's super dangerous to believe in something that isn't real. It's super dangerous to put your faith in a hallucination that you think represents reality that is false. So a lot of people, in what they do, they have a betting the farm attitude. And I'm like, man, you think I'm freaking risky? I take risks left and right. But you know why it's left and right? Because while you're putting all your money on the farm on one deal, I'm putting it on 25 different deals. I've got asymmetric risk across the board. I lose more often than I win, and my winnings are so much bigger because my ROI is so outrageous. That's strategy. That's technically, that's intelligence right there. That's Ray Dalio, $27 billion returned over 25 years based on an asymmetric risk philosophy. How do we get there with negotiations? I'm not sure, Carson.
This is great stuff, Kris. Because we were talking about negotiations and how you try and see the big picture and see the long-term deal inside, or I guess I should say beyond the immediate deal.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk to you about big deals, but I also want to talk to you about small negotiations. I would love it if you're open to it, Kris. I'd love to share an experience I had where I witnessed you negotiate something recently.
Okay.
And it was a small thing. In fact, it was a very small thing. Do you remember at Park City how we were there for 3 days and we were ordering room service for every meal just about? And you would get on the phone, and I know there was this lady on the other side of the line that deals with customers all day long. Her interaction with you, though, was very different than probably her interaction with anybody she's ever dealt with. Do you remember this?
Listen, if I'm dealing with anyone in any type of service industry, I feel like my job is to pay you a really huge tip and try to make your day, because there's a grind there. There's a hard work that there's some heavy lifting. And there's a part of me that just says, hey, dude, let's can we put a smile on your face?
Kris, do you realize this speaks directly to this idea of cutting the pie so that you'd be happy with either slice? Or, I mean, even in the service industry, it's a negotiation, right? You're asking for something and hoping that they'll fulfill on it.
I was listening to this audio program recently, and this gentleman commented that whenever he stayed at a hotel, he always left a $100 tip for the person that cleans the toilet. And I thought about that for a moment, because I thought, there's so many ways that we leave legacy. There's so many people that we cheapen when we shouldn't. There's people that should be heralded. The person that's wiping your ass, the person that's keeping your butt clean, the person that is doing the lowest of jobs so that you can have like this incredible level of royalty and decency in your life when you're at a hotel. And that made a huge impact on me, because I thought, I'm so privileged to have the level of blessing and growth that I do. But everyone's at a different place in their journey. Some people are further along. Some people are behind. Some people don't even know they're on a journey. And I believe that how I treat other people is an expression. I think Jesus said this thing. He said, the golden rule, right? It's like, treat others the way you want to be treated. And I think that is probably some of the best, most practical advice for negotiating. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you're not going to see him come across, all hard on trying to win and you lose, just because I don't like who I become in that process. I would rather create win-wins my entire life and get ahead that way, even if I wind up with less money. Because at the end of the day, I've gotten to a point, my lifestyle hasn't changed in the last decade when I make more money. My financial choices have not altered with the amount of money that I make. Like, more money does not create more meaning for me. The only thing that creates more meaning is the choices that I make. And when there's nothing to be gained from having more money, then a person eventually has to pause and just ask, what matters? And it's not your net worth, because we all know there's no U-Haul that goes to heaven. The Pharaohs figured that one out. Make choices where at the end of the day, you can respect and love who you are, whether you get ahead or not. I think that's just the beginning. That's the kind of person I am, and that doesn't jive and resonate with a lot of people. But you know what? It's working for me, and it's getting me ahead, and I'm really pleased with the growth.
Well, this negotiation you had, this phone call to at the hotel, where they're bringing us our meals. I bet you didn't even notice, but it resulted in some awesome benefits.
Did it?
It did. First off, what was the negotiation? You knew you were calling up to ask for food, and it's this rote thing where you're like, we want this, and this, and they double check it and they send it up to you, right? It's this process we go through. You took the time, and I know you made her laugh on the other end of the line repeatedly. You kept saying things that people wouldn't expect you to say, and we could hear her laughing on the other end of that line. Well, the next day when a mistake was made in our order, and they found out, they rushed up. I had ordered apple juice, and they brought an orange juice, and we mentioned it the next day, and we're like, oh yeah, by the way, make sure it's the apple juice this time. They brought up 4 bottles of apple juice and said, sorry, and these are on the house. That was part of your negotiation. I mean, you wouldn't see it that way because you're just playing this game called treat someone like a human being. Yeah. Make a deposit. And ultimately, when something went wrong, because you had made deposits, they were willing to go the extra mile for you.
I like Carson recommending good books. And I've read a lot. I love reading. I love the idea that in a couple of hours, I can steal the best ideas that someone has dedicated their life to in a very tiny niche. And I love books from Arbinger Institute. There's a book called Leadership and Self-Deception. We read that as a team recently. And,
so good.
And the idea of that is that by nature, we put people in boxes. We give them labels and we objectify them. And it's just easier to go through life if you don't have to put emotional heart, soul, and energy into viewing another person as a human, as a worthy person with goals and dreams and fears just like you. And I think that that is the first step of a horrible negotiation, is if you want your negotiation to go wrong, start inauthentically by looking at the person as an object or a path to getting what you want. I don't think you're going to like who you become in the process, but it's a blind spot for most so that they don't understand that. And I would actually get clear. Who do you put in boxes? Like it's easy to do because it takes work and effort to actually see everyone as a human. Yeah. I have to stop and take time if I see you as a human. Then I actually have to care. Like you told me that your dad's in the hospital. If you're an object, hey, I hope that goes better for you. And boom, I'm on my way. Pause. Your dad's in the hospital? What happened? That takes time. Mm-hmm. Caring takes time. But I think that if we want our capacity to increase like we want our wealth to increase, then we need to take the time to slow down and care. And I actually heard it from you. You said, Kris, how I spell time? I spell it like this, C-A-R-E. Or actually, I think you said it the other way around. I think caring is spelled T-I-M-E. Yep. And it's reversible. Isn't that beautiful? Yeah. It's this idea that...
you show what you care about by how you spend your time.
Last Wednesday, I had a high-profile mentor of mine in the office. This is an individual who has been in the real estate game for 30 plus years. He owns the international commercial space. Brilliant human being, but the more time I spent with him, the more I just really cherished and liked who he was. He was thoughtful enough to bring a gift to me from his native country on the other side of the world. I was courteous enough to, have the black SUVs, get him from the airport and drive him around. We took the time to do a nice dinner when we had no more business to talk about. We didn't need to. I could have preserved time. But right now, it looks like we're probably going to do some pretty significant business. But what I'm more excited about is just how I like this individual and that I think it's a privilege and honor to associate with them and build a relationship with them and mentor with them and learn from them. And I believe that my family, my children have been edified by knowledge of who he is and how he helped me get my start in the game of real estate. And so, if you had to say, hey, Kris, here's 2 deals in front of you. This one's going to make you 10 times more money. You're just going to have to sacrifice a little bit of your integrity, a little bit of your soul, right? You're going to have to objectify just a little bit. Or here's this other less attractive deal that'll make you 10 times less money, but you will love who you become. That choice isn't hard to make because I've already made it. And I've determined there's no amount of zeros that I would ever sacrifice that part of me for. That's at least what I'd like to believe, because remember, who we become, our destiny of who we become in time is made up of the choices that we've made in the past and the choices that we're making today. Sometimes I meet Carson that say, oh yeah, when I'm rich and I make a lot of money, I'm going to be such a giver to philanthropy. I'm going to give. I'm going to be a generous giver. And I just say, hey, I get it. Right now you're not rich. Right now you don't have a lot of money. Are you giving now? Oh no, I can't afford to. I got news for you. I don't have any faith that you're ever going to become a philanthropist that's going to give money because you haven't learned to give it when you don't have it. In other words, the choices you make today determine who you become by the time you meet your destiny face on. So make good choices today. Honor yourself and what that needs to look like. However, I am representing in negotiations conversation today 2 very different polarizing ideas, Carson. One of them is be a nice human being, be a respectable human being. That doesn't mean be a stupid human being. Because what I've also said is know your standards. Yeah. Know when to say no. I was on the phone the other day with a gentleman that wanted to negotiate something with me. It should have taken place in one phone call. It had bled over into a second phone call. I had a very important meeting to get to. And so I basically told this individual on the phone, I'm glad that we get to have this time together genuinely. I am giving you 20 minutes. But after 20 minutes, a decision will be met and we will not be having another conversation on this matter because it doesn't honor me to do that. Some might call that an ultimatum, but you know what? I actually make ultimatums all the time. And most people are like, Kris, isn't that dictatorship? Like, you cannot be perceived as a nice person if you're making ultimatums. I'm like, actually, I don't think you respect yourself if you're not. You have to know your limits. You have to know when to say yes. You have to know when to say no. And if you don't know, then you don't know who you are. Socrates, know thyself. You're not there yet. How do you go into a negotiation if you're not crystal clear on outcome and who you become in the process? So with this individual, we got to the 19th minute and he said, oh my gosh, oh no, we only have a minute left. Can we reschedule? I said, I'm going to hold to my commitment right now, which is in 45 more seconds, this phone call ends. You need to make a decision, and that's the decision that's going to stand. So please make it now. And they knew it. I said it. I meant it. They made their decisions. The phone call ended cheery and nice, and I was glad that I honored myself because it would have dishonored me to have had another conversation on that matter. So there's a strange balance, right?
Yes.
It's an interesting game, and I'm introducing some ideas that are quite paradoxical in nature, but you have to know how to respect yourself because respect is a face of love. If you don't respect yourself and if that doesn't show up in your standards, then I would never want to do business with someone that doesn't know what their standards are.
Kris, this conversation went in all sorts of directions that I did not anticipate.
That never happens when we do these podcasts, right? Like we always stay exactly on according to plan. I don't know.
No, this is great. I just did not think your approach to negotiating would be so holistic and so driven by who we are as individuals.
Yeah. What else would it be? Anything else would be fake. If everything's just a money game and tactics so that I can get rich, then that must be who I am. That must be who I am. But that's not who I am.
And most people aren't going to identify with that either.
No, I think that Hollywood like often creates this energy around what it is to be wealthy and rich. But you know, most people I know that have money, most of them, good human beings, good intentions. They do good things with their money. They tend to be really generous. They love to share. And it's a testament to how they got the money in the first place. And don't get me wrong, you can be a douchebag and get money too. But then you have to live with who you are. And I think that's the question at the end of the day is, in your own negotiations, are you making compromises to who you are as a human to get what you want? Do you know who you are? Do you know what you want? Do you know what outcome? Because at 3:42 this afternoon, a bus might hit you. And what will your final acts be? I hope you look back and say, whether I did or didn't get everything I wanted, I liked who I became in the process of trying to figure it out.
Well, I sincerely hope that there is no bus today at 3:42, Kris.
You never know, man. You never know. This last year, I lost 3 really cool friends, 2 of them freak accidents. And I don't live in fear, but I've already had my near-death experience years ago. And I have to be honest, every day I wake up with a light and a passion and a fire. And people are like, man, Kris, are you freaking just on caffeine? I'm like, no, I don't drink caffeine. I do have my pre-workout in the mornings, but I don't drink caffeine. Where does my energy come from? My energy comes from understanding that we've got this precious little time and we don't know how long it's going to be or how short it's going to be. But I think that every day, every minute should be honored.
I like that. In fact, what we're doing right here is technically a negotiation. People come to us saying, give me content. Let me learn real estate from you. Right. And we hope to deliver on that big time every time we do this. So in closing, what is the last thing that we can give our listeners?
A couple of things. One is there's a great book of negotiation that I do absolutely love. It's called Never Split the Difference. It's written by someone that worked in the FBI for years and had to negotiate really death-defying, tough situations, hostage negotiations. Never Split the Difference. Wonderful book to read. There's great books on tactics. Today, I wanted to bring an energy that I haven't found written yet. That's the value I wanted to share today, which is, who do you become in the process of attempting to get what you think you want? Because guess what? Most of us, by the time we get the thing that we think we want, guess what happens? We realize that it's not what we wanted. We thought that it would satisfy us for a lifetime. And guess what? It only lasted a day, 2 or 3, and then we level up our standards and we want more. It's the mantra of the ego, even when we're trying to live without it, even when we're surrendering it. It's just more, more, more. But there's a beautiful side to that is non-counterfeit, that says that more is also expressed in personal growth. And for me, on my deathbed, I want to look back and hope that I've shed as much ego as possible, that I'm as authentic and true to myself as possible, but more importantly, that I've grown. And I always challenge myself that more was expressed as I became more. This definition of nobility, slap it up on a wall, Carson. Better today than yesterday. That's it. It's a real simple game of life because I feel like that honors the God in us. I feel like that honors something bigger, because when we die, the money really doesn't matter. In fact, most things won't. But what does? If there is any type of afterlife, or if there is this beautiful moment where we get to watch the movie of our life, or if life continues, and we get to know what that was, I think there's a part of us that's going to look back and just wonder, did I fulfill purpose? I believe we have a purpose. I believe we have a mission. And I want to know myself. I want to know what that is, and then I want to live it as best as possible. And I would trade all the money in the world to know that I lived life that way, because that's what will matter most at 342.